countries in the world in terms of sustainability, and they are just dominating these rankings for years and years. So today we will be trying to answer the question, what makes Nordic countries reaching those goals and being an inspiration for the whole world. I would like to welcome today my guests from leading Scandinavian companies. Agata Czachurska, Country Sustainability Manager at IKEA Retail Poland. Welcome, Agata.
Good morning.
You will see Agata in a second, probably. Łucja Kalkstein, co-founder and vice president of Danish-Polish company Eric. Hi, Łucja.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Paweł Finkelman, owner and runner of Nordic NCDC company based in Szczecin.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi, Paweł. Johan Jendal, and CEO of Green Career Group, and Johan is joining us today from Sweden, but Green Career also is present in Szczecin and all over Poland.
Hello, everybody. Johan here.
Great to see you, Johan. And we have Jacek Falkiewicz, Public Affairs Director from Ericsson Poland, the leading IT company.
Good morning, dzień dobry wszystkim.
Good morning. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so happy you found the time for us. And I have to say that I'm always really inspired when looking at the solution that Scandinavian countries and companies are implementing. But we will be talking today and focusing on CSR. It's such a wide topic, so we need to narrow it down to a few points. So first, I would like to ask Agata from IKEA. We know that CSR addresses the impact, positive and negative, on the society, people, environment. We know that we are facing the really enormous crisis, and there is an urgent need for carbon limitation. So how do you think that CSR activities of the companies are changing in the face of these challenges, and what solutions does IKEA implement to face it?
Hi, thank you for this question. Before I answer that, I would like to say I am sorry for the background noise, as my neighbor is doing some rebuild in his apartment. So sorry for that. And now going to the answer, I think that, well, at IKEA we do not talk about CSR as the activities on top of everything we do, on top of running the business. The way we are approaching this area is having sustainability integrated in everything we do, in each operation and each area of our business. So this is like a strategic way of running our company. And when it comes to the challenge of climate change, we have very ambitious plans connected also with the fact that we treat it as the one of the three main challenges globally. So we would like to be, and we do everything we can to become climate positive in 2030. And that means that we want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by more than we emit in our operations, or even in a whole IKEA value chain. And as Inca Group, we have a couple of different activities we do and goals we want to reach. And one of the goals is to generate more renewable energy than we consume. Here we have a lot of investments going on. We already have invested globally 2.5 billion euros in renewable energy, and we have a plan to invest 4 billion euros more on top of that. We have more than 900 PV panels all over the world. We have 10 solar parks. We have almost 550 wind turbines all over the world. And globally, last year we generated renewable energy, more renewable energy than we consume, and it was 32% more. What is worth to also mention is that here in Poland, from 2016, we have 6 wind farms, thanks to which we are generating more renewable energy than we use in our operations. So we are very proud from this. And we also, last year, we also started the investment in PV installations on the roof of our stores and our warehouses. And we are also looking into renewable heating and cooling activities and installations in our stores. So this is like the future. And the second part of addressing the emissions is also the work we do within our transport area. So in here, we already invested in EV chargers at our stores, but we also aim for the zero emissions from the something that we call last mile deliveries. So the deliveries that we do to our customers. And the third activity is to cut on emission by 50% when it comes to the transport of our coworkers and our customers to our touch points. So this would be what are our plans and what we have already done in these regards.
So in terms of CSR activities and being a sustainable company, you're just trying to decrease as much as possible the environment influence for IKEA, yes? So this is great, an ambitious plan, and it's really something that we are observing every day, and that's fantastic, the strategy you're implementing. So congratulations on that brave moves that IKEA did even back in 2016 in Poland, especially. Yes. Thank you, Agata. And on the other part, we have Ericsson, IT global leader, and Jacek, can you tell us how in your opinion, the CSR is changing now, and I know about big plans also from Ericsson, so please share with us your story on this respect.
Thank you for the question. This is the long list of initiatives and everything you can find on our website. And this is a special report prepared for these purposes called Technology for Good. But what I would like to mention today and simply make take your attention to that is the education. This pandemic time shown that how important connectivity is for the education purposes. And this pandemic in the Western countries is something special, but in many countries on the world where the only way to educate people is to use the connectivity via internet. And we started far before pandemic time, the initiative called the Connect to Learn, which is focused on the secure the connectivity in different countries for the young people to give them chance for quality education. And recently we signed the agreement or the partnership with UNICEF in the initiative called GIGA to map the connectivity in 35 countries and then try to improve the situation and give them the young people a chance to learn. And we are really proud of that. And before this initiative with UNICEF, we did a lot in India under the same umbrella of Connect to Learn. And this quality education is very important for us. And this is on the global scale, let's say. On the local scale, what we are doing is the quite interesting initiative called the IT for She. It's the inclusion of the, or the even no inclusion, empowerment of the young ladies to educate for the education in the ICT world, to a little bit change the proportion in this world in the country, because still is we need more ladies in this area. And we belong to this project since 2016, so it's quite long and successful. And every year we try to help via coaches, via our ladies in our R&D in Łódź and Kraków, to help young girls, young ladies to find a way how to educate in ICT, how to find the career path in this area. So this is, we have more panelists. I don't want to take all the time we have. As I said, everything is in our technology for good, but this is the main examples on the global scale, in the local scale, what we are doing. Maybe add something regarding the energy, because we are doing on this a lot, and our 5G equipment.
I hope you will mention 5G.
Yes, 5G is the technology which will help us to do these things. What I said, what I'm talking about, the Connect to Learn. This is the one of the technology leg to help this. But from the energy perspective, 5G technology will be more far energy efficient than the previous Gs. And this is important if we look how many data we should send and receive, and how it should be efficient from the energy perspective. Such a system should be efficient from the energy perspective. And this is two parts like this. First is what we are doing in the production to simply limit the carbon emission. And second is what we are doing in terms of the design of our equipment. And this is even more important, having in mind the scale of the deployments over the world, to minimize the carbon emission. So this is the three examples what we are doing in CSR area. But we have significantly more examples. Yes, and this is even this report is quite interesting, because we have the examples in Italy, in particular countries, but having in mind that we are talking about about Poland. So I have an example from the global perspective and from the local perspective.
Thank you, Jacek. I was visiting Ericsson R&D in Łódź before the pandemic, and also in terms of 5G and connectivity, and how you will influence the city system transport. It was really impressive, and we sure as a SPCC will cover also this topic of green cities shortly. But I was really impressed what the technology can be used to make our lives easier and better and more energy efficient. So,
if you give me a chance to add something, you are talking about the Łódź R&D. I'm really proud of that, because we have this DIH, Digital Innovation Hub, together with the Łódź University of Technology and Łódzka Strefa Ekonomiczna, Special Economic Zone in Łódź. And we are really proud of that, because it is first 5G lab at the Polish University, and the cooperation with the Special Economic Zone, which is simply exemplification how we can use this knowledge to help the startups to build the new solutions based on the 5G connectivity. So after pandemic, all please feel invited to Łódź, to Łódź University of Technology, and to our R&D to see how we are doing these kind of things.
I'm sure, you know, in Szczecin there is also technical university, so maybe there is also a part of where Ericsson could get involved and work on these solutions also in the region here. But actually, Jacek, was answering the question that I was supposed to ask, the second one, about the partnerships, because it's such an important aspect of collaboration and collective effort to encounter the negative trends and build really basis for prosperity and high quality life of future generations. And I would like to ask Johan from Green Career. I know that you have fantastic programs globally to support the change and just showcase, because you're representing the sector that is influencing the environment, and you're doing a lot of good things to decrease this impact. Johan, can you share with us those ideas?
Thank you. We are trying at least to contribute with what we can contribute with. And of course, it's done in collaboration with our partners and clients. I mean, I used to be the head of logistics for Ericsson many years ago. We were by far largest buyer of air freight out to Sweden. We represented 50% of all air freight going out to Sweden. So of course, it's a lot also in how do you design your supply chains. And the supply chain design starts at the drawing table of the products. When you design your product, you design also how the supply chain is going to look for them. The other part of the supply chain is also how do you sell your products. How you sell your products, you're going to have to deliver. So in the way you sell and what you promise to clients is also, of course, dependent on your ability to have different types of setups. In the mix there, I mean, it's so that what I'm trying to say with that is that there's a value chain. So it's important to have a value chain approach in it. And in the value chain, there are various players who are collaborating. It's the producing company, it's the services company that we represent in the middle, it's a customer, and maybe some other also when it comes to clearing customs and some on board and pickup and other transportations. But from a collaboration standpoint, I think it's increasingly important, and it's becoming increasingly important. I mean, if you a little bit philosophical around it, we come from hierarchical way of organizing the world and also organizing companies, and it worked very well, and it's sort of based upon 100-year-old theories on management and organizations. In time with digitalization, the world is becoming increasingly flat. We have more and more access to information. To sit in information is not the power, it's the use of information. The information is more or less a flip of the bottom away. So to learn when a king died, maybe not the most important thing. To connect that integrated perspective is what skills is about now. When I went to school, it was the year when the king died. That was what I need to remember. So we are changing, and from that aspect, I'm a big fan and supporter of the network organization, where we work as a network, where you more are collaborating than wrestling each other. That's why I'm also very keen on sourcing and procurement. When we procure and also when others procure from us, I think it's to a great degree, it's been very much about combating. You know, we are wrestling to push each other and find the best price or payment days and whatever T's and C's that we have. But I think that belongs to the past. Nowadays, and even more tomorrow, we're going to have to be great in collaborators and collaborate across. And we need to sort of do that in a transparent way. So from that aspect, and the same goes with sustainability, not anyone can fix the situations and problems that we are in. And it's the biggest problem and challenge, or maybe it's the biggest challenge and task that we as mankind have to fix. Then, of course, we need to generate profit to our shareholders and healthy workplace and stuff. But it's the most important common thing that all of us have to rally and do something about. And none of us can fix it by ourselves. So we have to collaborate. We have to seek different areas of doing things. And I don't believe in these big steps. I've been running transformations for the last 25 years around the world in various geographies and various companies. And I have never seen any transformation succeed with big steps. All transformations is based upon like small steps. You have to think big, but you act small. So it's and you tweak over time because you don't have all of the answers, and you don't need to have all of the answers to start. But you don't probably have a direction. So start walking in that direction and then take the adjustments along the way. The likeliness that you're stepping in a totally different direction is probably limited unless you have done a really, really crappy analysis. But anyway, to be transparent and collaborative in your value chain is extremely important. I think that's a big change for supply chain people, but for sourcing people to go into that. I also think it's super important that supply chain people steps up and really becomes the critical part of management teams in organizations. Historically, it hasn't really been the case. If you are in a product company, if you deliver a product or develop a product, your core business normally to develop the product and sell the product. Then you have supply chain in the middle, which is more fulfillment. And if you look on the logistics side that I represent, it's normally embedded in supply chain, and as long as it gets shipped and on time, it's okay. So it's a few priorities down. But I think that with the pandemic that we are in, the view on supply chain, the criticality of supply chain is getting there. So, and for as I started talking about, I mean, the way, if we're going to be successful, I mean, we define value chains on the drawing table when we design our processes and then where things are coming from which suppliers, etc. And we also design it in the way we sell it. And all of that needs to be connected. So it's all a collaborative value chain. So I don't really like, I said, supply chain. I don't like the supply chain name. I rather talk about value chain. For me, it's more a value chain. It's also something for supply people and operations people to view themselves as creating value. And I mean, value, it means for me, it's customer value, rather than supply, which is for me the answer to demand. You have a demand and the answer is supply. So I think it's more about sense yourselves as being a value person who contribute to customer value and claim that space around the table. So with that said, collaborating in all areas, especially around the sustainability, is essential. So I think we need to drop our guards and I don't think we have to drop our guards and do what's best for the common. And in the end, what's best for the common is good for you too.
Thank you, fantastic. It's a whole philosophy, Johan, behind it, and thank you for sharing your thoughts on that, and especially bringing to this discussion the value chain. It's so important, and as you said, sometimes the businesses are competitors, but on the wider scale, they should cooperate and just to create value for the whole environment and the community. And I also really am a fan of what you said about small steps, because we can have the big goals and ambitious targets, but it comes down to people on the lowest level and just growing the knowledge and the education of the societies. So what Ericsson is doing also in terms of education, and many other Scandinavian companies are so relevant.
And I will add to that, which is an extremely important part, and is to change the role of the leader. For me, is changing. We are still sort of treating the leadership that you sort of set the direction, that you deliver, delegate the jobs, you follow what the jobs are done, and so forth. That's a sort of a Henry Fayol 100 years old theories on management, and those are changing, and we have to, with the speed that we have today in business, and at the same time, it is never going to be as slow again as it is today. Never. Future is just going to be faster. So we can't sit and have leaders that make the decision and people who execute. We have to push out decision making in the field, and people have to claim the mandates. I don't like people say they don't have mandates. They have all the mandates they need, but they have to earn the trust to remain those mandates. But we have to push out decision making and basically having people who are creative, challenging the things we do, who take initiative to turn those creativity into actions, and also have some passion about contributing to greater thing than maybe just getting paid on a daily basis. So I think it's super important that we as leaders change the way we lead, from sort of setting direction and governing and controlling to really enabling our organizations to perform. Any company who doesn't succeed that will not be relevant tomorrow. I would bet on that one. So we have a big responsibility as leaders to sort of let hands go from the ring that covers the rink, and really let our organizations take the initiative. And with all information that is and all of the tools that we have now, people have all the information they need, and it's not so much to be concerned with. It's rather sort of making it happen, and then be the leader that are coaching, and rather, instead of giving answers to people, help the people to find answers. Being great at asking questions is a very underestimated skill, I think.
Thank you, Johan. You're bringing the second part actually of the CSR and responsibility that companies and leaders have to face and should face. And I know many of my guests here are facing this problem, like how to empower people and how to empower the teams and the whole communities for the change in the area of CSR. And I know IKEA has many good examples also of that kind of activities based on trust, which is really Scandinavian gold, how the organizations are built, and what Johan already kind of mentioned. So, Agata, can you comment also on this role that the companies have now towards their employees and how to empower people? Such an easy question, right?
Yeah. And there are some answers that are very obvious, especially within the CSR or sustainability area, which are, of course, building the awareness, education, trainings, giving good examples, sustainable leadership, etc., etc., etc. But I've been at IKEA for some quite time. I have my reflections on that, and like from my experience and my observation, and being IKEA coworker, I can say that there are some very important success factors, and I think that the first factor is integrating sustainability into our daily work. At IKEA, every one of us is responsible for implementing the People and Planet Positive strategy. Everyone has something to do with it. And just giving you a very simple example, we have this goal of zero waste in our operations. And, you know, each coworker produces waste. Yeah, so this is very important. To sort waste properly, to reduce the amount of waste which is going to the landfill or to the incineration. And this is activity that every one of us is doing during our work. Yeah, but thinking about, for example, IKEA food coworkers, they have this additional, let's say, activity that they need to think how to serve food to reduce the food waste. When it comes to recovery coworkers, what they do in addition, they do repackage the goods from returns, or they repair the goods from returns and from the expositions to give the goods, to give the products the next life or the longer life. So depending on the area you are working in, your task might differ, but we all contribute to sustainable and climate positive and circular IKEA. So let's sum up that this integration is very important. The second thing which I think is extremely important is listening to your coworkers, their needs, their expectations, and their ideas to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit. That's something that Johan said, yes? This is not anymore about, having one person who is the leader. We need to be leaders. All of us need to be leaders, and all of us needs to be very entrepreneurial. So listening to your coworkers' ideas and their expectations. And here I have amazing examples from the first phase of COVID, of the pandemic, and the first lockdowns. Many of our coworkers were, their task, some of their tasks were just, missing because there are no more customers at the store. What to do? There was this amazing idea from our IKEA food coworkers to join Wzywamy Posiłki initiative. And they did. And we delivered thousands of meals to the healthcare coworkers. And the next thing, or the next example would be Hot 16 challenge. That was also our coworkers' idea to join the challenge, to record the music videos and so on, so on. And it was amazing. And they feel empowered and they feel proud. And I must say that in our survey that is called iShare, and this survey is monitoring how our coworkers perceived IKEA and perceived working at IKEA and perceived their managers and so on, so on. From this survey, we know that 87% of our coworkers claim that their work is meaningful and they are proud of what they are doing. So this is something extremely valuable. And
amazing, you know, result.
Yeah, we are very proud. We are very proud. And then I think that the next thing would be also to show and explain coworkers how their daily work influence people and planet, so they can feel that they really do something meaningful and valuable, not only money-wise, but also this mission-wise. Yeah. So for me, these are three success factors, I would say, for the coworker engagement.
Thank you, Agata, for sharing the whole. Again, it's hard not to tell about CSR activities without the word philosophy, because it has so many beautiful colors and shadows, and we can all adapt it to our needs as organizations. And Łucja, I know you have also great vibrations in your teams. You're empowering leader. I was visiting many times Eric in Szczecin, and the atmosphere there is amazing. Can you share with us your thoughts about that?
Thank you, Agnieszka. Thank you for letting me share our experience here. I mean, it's exciting stories, and for this very kind words you are saying about us. I think first I would like to refer to what we started to talk about as trust and empowering the teams as I see it. As you mentioned at the beginning, trust is very important in Scandinavian business culture, and but distrust, it goes hand in hand with responsibility. You can sleep control and empower people if you are also able to build responsibility. It's and this is very difficult task, especially when people are used to wait for orders and say, well, these are borders of my responsibility and nothing more. So it's build responsibility of your team, and this is the foundation. And the other thing you have to build is you have to build the trust of your team in what you're doing and what you say. People are extremely sensitive and good at detecting bullshit. Any kind of greenwashing, anything when they feel it's PR, it is a facade, it is for certificate, it is for marketing, it will backfire painfully. So make sure that you really mean what you say and that you do what you say as much as you can. If you cannot for some reasons, explain honestly how, because it's, if what you are not doing is not genuine, one misstep will ruin whatever you have tried to build. And also, we may have wonderful global goals, wonderful human goals, plus interest of shareholders and business needs, well, at least making a profit. So it's, I would start with making sure that we are able to align the interests of our ideas, how we would like to promote a better world and how it will serve our team and how it is still business-wise sustainable and doable. And then explain, show people, and convince them that it is in their interest. And besides, it is, as Agata said, people love doing something meaningful. I mean, the young generation doesn't want to go to work to just earn money, and some of them do, but it's for most it is not enough, and we have to respond to that. And please remember, any hypocrisy will be punished.
Thank you, Lucia. I always knew that you will bring the other kind of side of the other flip of the coin to the table, right? And thank you for sharing. And that's so important to be authentic in our goals and what we want to achieve with teams in respect of bigger scale and also on the micro level. So coming back to the small steps again.
And if you let me say a few words more, I don't know if I'm not jumping too far talking about general business philosophy, but I would like to believe and make it that responsible business is good business. That this is not something we are doing for others, but we do it for the companies. We started with thinking some years back that it's there is such a saying that is attributed to Milton Friedman, that the only business of business is business, and it doesn't hold anymore. Firstly, it is not accepted by the world. The global moods are against this dog eat dog capitalism, and if we don't adjust and begin to bring value to the environment from which we take, we will be eaten. So that is really long-term thinking. But I mean, all businesses to grow, we have to take resources from our environment, from natural environment and from social environment. And at certain point, we have to give back. Otherwise, it's not business. This is exploitation. And while it may pay off in the short run, in the long run, it is simply not sustainable. And this is what we are doing with the whole planet, with our societies. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go political, but if we don't change the way we understand what is allowed and what is right in our capitalist world, then some revolution will hit us. That also means that it's sustainable business. Sustainable doesn't mean green. Sustainable, it means something that doesn't eat up and replete resources until there is nothing left. It is managing all the resources we are given in such a way that they will be available for us in the long run, to others and to people who come after us. And the same about CSR. It's not about charity. We run our business as always, and then we do some charity, and well, the tables are clean. It's CSR. It is about the overall philosophy where we admit that the interest of shareholders is vital, but it is not the only interest, and it doesn't justify everything. We have responsibility towards all stakeholders, who are our employees, who are our business partners, who are local communities, who are the states. I mean, such a thing like paying some kind of fair taxes, which is fair and what is not. We may disagree some places, but I believe we have to do it. We have to pay taxes, and we cannot see it as just the bad. But it's so the politics also somehow we have to take it into account when running our business.
Thank you, Lucia. We will go back to this in a second also, but that's not a problem. I'm happy you brought this discussion to the table. I wanted just to go back a bit in terms of inspiring workplaces and conditions for people, still to stick to this level of influencing our employees. And then we will go back to the bigger scale, because you know, I've been coming to Stettin for over 10 years. It's a lot of time. And I have met amazing people there, amazing business people. And I'm so fortunate to learn from you, from your experience. And that's my pleasure I can host you today. And Paweł Finkelman is one of those people I met. And the workplace he created is just amazing. And it's also, in terms of CSR, making all the criteria checked, because it's also a revitalization project. So Paweł, can you tell a bit about your philosophy in terms of CSR and your approach? You were awarded the Equal Company Award also not so far ago. So the floor is yours.
Yes, well, I think it is much of the same what Lucia was saying. I think the foundation of our company was more or less like, you know, you have to have stability, you have to have security, and you have to have trust. And those three are just the levels you have to build in. So whenever we are talking about being trusted, and it means you have to do what you say you are doing, and you have to give people possibility to check that what you have said, what you have done, it is true. So this is a very bit of difficulty, because, you know, when I came here for some years ago, I think it is like almost 20 years ago, when I came to Poland, this part was kind of very natural in the Danish, because I have some Danish companies as well. So it was a very natural way of doing it. When I'm coming in here, the receiver part, whatever I tried to do, the receiver part, they were just mostly in shock. It's like it is like, it can't be true. So you or I have started with educating people. Yes, you can trust, and I trust you, and please trust me. And the first part was, I started not to say pani and pan. It is like sir and miss. It was like the barrier of being in the language. It is also very visible. So this is the first thing. And then sometimes when we have people, because we are running this internship for students, and they are shocked, because it comes like, you know, just 1 year before these dinosaurs, and he looks like very old man, and everybody says you to him like, yeah, it was normal. And this is the way of having a kind of culture in a company where we have roles, we don't have a position. So this is like, one of the steps is, okay, if we only have roles, then if we are asking people to be a manager, then next day he could be something else, because his role in a company depends on his skills, not on how good he has managed to talk into some, you know, employment situation. So stability, security, and trust, which was a part of the Danish society, is taken into the companies as well. So you know, we try to treat each other not as a co-worker, but as a colleague. Okay, I don't have any co-workers. I have only colleagues. So everybody, even the guy who is cleaning up on the pavement, or the people in the kitchen, they are my colleagues. Because my way of looking into it is, and I believe this is a very, very Scandinavian way to look into it, we are in a company, but we are also a person who is acting in the social relation outside the company. And outside the company is very important as well. So therefore it is, for me, I see, we need to not only inspire people, but by doing something inside company, but also doing it outside. I know somebody was talking about, you know, delivering food for the health workers. We did as well. We have this kind of zero Hungary World Food Program, which we are supporting. We have this, I think they are a little bit disabled who are painting. There are some artists who are mentally not on our level, but they are still trying to be happy people, and we are supporting them as well. So trying to support outside and inside is a very important part. And I can give you some examples. We have people who came in to us having a fantastic CV. Fantastic CV. They were great. Unfortunately, the CV didn't really match what they could. Their skills were not at the same point. So normally, or what I have seen around is to suck people and say, okay, you are not working as we expected, so please leave the company. What we try to do is to put into some more education, or even go around and say, is there any other role you can be better at? So if you start as a, let's say, a programmer in this level, then you could maybe program something else at that level. So again, respect people, not look at them as being an assets, but look at them as being a colleague. And I think this is why this, let's say, very funny Równa firma, because it's mean like people are equal, and this is what we do. We try to be equal in our company, and as the guy from the Ericsson say, this is very important to educate, and very important to have this network. So yeah, that's, I don't know if I can put anything more what Lucia has said. The only thing we're saying is stability, security, trust, and of course, we don't have any position, we only have roles. And from this, you can try, you can take everything out. You can do whatever. We have, we try, if you say sustainability, we have this program where we are servicing bicycles for our colleagues. So 2 times a year, you can bring your bike into the company, and we have a service company coming in and servicing your bike, because we would like, as I do, I would like to drive to my company on bike. And I have seen the lady from IKEA, she has a bike hanging up at the wall. I believe she understands what I'm talking about. And, we have also, when pandemic started and we were all together sitting, then we have hired a physiotherapist to learn us how to deal with only sitting at home and having some exercise. And the same is like, having the special desks. And if people don't have a desk at home, we can deliver it to them. So again,
it's taking care of well-being of your workers as well, yes, and of course, cycling is good for the environment as well. So,
yes, and looking into the parking spaces we are missing in Stettin, I think it is a very good idea. We are going to bike to our places. So yes, we do this kind.
Thank you, Paweł, for sharing this. As I said, I really encourage you to visit all the companies based in Stettin and their leaders, and also all the Scandinavian companies are open for visitors and just sharing experiences. But Lucia brought the topic of being consistent in your policy in terms of CSR, of responsibility that we all have, of course, towards the environment, society, local communities. But how does it influence really your results as business? Because sustainable means also that the economic growth is in line with this philosophy. So what opportunities do you see in implementing the philosophy and still being competitive on the market? And I think that I would engage Johan again to share his comments on this. What does it mean for Green Career, Johan, on the level of results, commercial results?
It's a good and valid question. I think we have been having a green agenda for many years. It's not the reason our name is Green Carriers, it's for other reasons, just a happy coincidence. And I've been working with the sustainability matters since the end of the 2000s. Then, I think over the years, I matured a lot from something that was nice to have, then that was dealt with a separate department. It's really become an embedded part of what we do, which is really pleasing. So it's not something you can choose or choose not to. For me, it's absolutely a necessity to be relevant. It's a necessity when we select suppliers, otherwise they would not be relevant. And it's for us when customers select us. I don't expect us to get more paid for it. I don't expect to pay more for green solutions. It's the reason why I select suppliers, or we, and why customers are selecting us. And over time, that will be a sort of a selling position. If I look on our results and financially, it's our financial results are improving year over year. At the same time also, our customer satisfaction, the NPS, are improving year over year. And what's even more satisfying is that our eNPS, our employee net promoter score, is also improving. And hopefully it's all connected. So I think it's a necessity to be relevant in today's market, but even so more in tomorrow's market. But you don't do it to sell more. It's a happy side effect. You do it to create a better tomorrow. Our vision in Green Carrier reads that creating a more sustainable tomorrow, and that should basically influence everything that we do. It should influence the people that we want to attract to us. It should influence all the solutions we put on. It should influence the suppliers that we are connecting with. That should influence how we deal with customers. And it's increasingly so. So I think it's more about the creating a vision and a purpose. I'm very much a purpose or a strong believer in purpose-driven organizations. And I believe that people connect to a purpose. You can connect your heart to a purpose, connecting the heart is essential for you to bring in the passion. I don't want to have satisfied employees or motivated employees. I want to have passionate employees. So being purpose-driven and driving towards a greater purpose will be good for your business. If I look back 25 years when I started working, it was much more about maximizing shareholder value, basically maximizing profit and so forth. Nowadays, companies and business and being leader is much, much more than optimizing the shareholder value. You have all of the other stakeholders to also account for. And by taking care of those, you will have a better shareholder value. And then it's my firm belief. So I think it starts really in that order. Do something good. Do something good that is greater for all and that people can connect to, and the results will come.
Thank you, Johan. It's really how I think Scandinavian companies operate and how they create this extra value, and the same, it brings the extra value in the revenue. Can you comment on that, Agata?
Yeah, sure. I had this thought that we are in Poland, we are constantly discussing sustainable development of the business or the CSR as the opportunity, as a chance for, some additional incomes, revenues flows, etc., etc. But I think this is the high time to discuss sustainability as a necessity. And of course, we believe that good business, doing good business is a good business, yeah. But looking into the challenges like resource scarcity that were already mentioned, and the climate change, I think that if you haven't been hit by them already, if your business haven't been hit by the effects of resource scarcity or climate change, it will be sooner than later. So this is in your interest, in interest of your business, and of course, your people, your communities, etc. But right now I'm talking to, you know, those people who are only seeing business in this traditional way. Then you need to be aware that the consequences will hit you, and they will be severe. So you need to prepare yourself for, you know, for those effects. So this is one of my recent talks. So if you do not believe, you know, in those big missions and big visions and purpose, just look what might happen to your business when, for example, we will have heat waves, and there will be some energy cuts. What with your production? What with your retailing? This is something that we are experiencing. Yes. Said that, I also this needs to be mentioned that in Poland, the ecological sustainable awareness is growing, and the demands of the consumers towards the companies are growing. And we are being challenged. Also at IKEA, we are being challenged by Polish consumers and by our customers. For example, regarding the e-commerce packaging. And we took this input, we took this feedback, and we know we need to do something about how we pack the goods in the e-commerce, and we work constantly to have less and less packaging when it comes to this sales flow. And so what I want to say here is that consumers' influence is very important, and we need to take it into account, because otherwise in the future we will lose their loyalty, we will lose their trust, and our business wouldn't grow as much as we would like to. When it comes to the results of having sustainability embedded or integrated in what we do, I think that the positive effects, we can talk about them in a short term and a long term, and there are many different activities that we can take that can bring us a positive effect on our business and on our results in the short term. And these are, for example, investments in energy efficiency, energy saving, in proper waste management or water management. This is something that we can see in our P&L instantly. Yeah? And on the other hand, we have some activities regarding building the relations with customers, building the relations with local communities, and building this, let's say, sustainable brand image. These are the activities that will bring us the effects in mid or in a long term, depending on what the activity is. But nevertheless, the effect will be positive. And the last thing I would like to also say is about making our product and services sustainable and circular. And of course, this is our goal also at IKEA. We want to have all the products to be circular by 2030. And this also can bring you, depending on which product or on which services we are talking about, it can also bring you the positive effect today, in 2 years, or in 10 years, depending on what you are planning. And of course, if we are talking about the transition towards the circular business model, this is the huge work we need to do, especially thinking about such a big company and complex company like IKEA. To really, truly be circular business, we need to take care about how we design our product, what are the design principles, how we produce the products, what is our supply chain, what energy do we use during the production, and not only in all our operations, how the transportation and the customer fulfillment looks like. This is like everything. this is everything. But we know that this is the investment of resources, of the working hours, of money, etc., that we just need to do to fulfill our vision of creating better everyday life for the many people in the future. This is the way to business to thrive in a really long term. So we just need to, we need to find a way how to grow the business and how to realize our vision without exploiting the resources, without exploiting the local communities. This is something that Lucia was talking about. Yeah, that this is the only way.
That's actually the great summary in a way of our panel. We are covering such a complex, and Agata explained just all the details of running a company and how each part of it should be taken into consideration with planning sustainable development and growth. And it's a great way to go through. We a bit increase the time frame, but I would like you all to one comment at the end, because we covered environment, we covered human capital, we covered local communities and activating and empowering people. So what would be your last kind of message, maybe also to the local authorities, how we can support together growth of the awareness of CSR in Poland and globally? Just one sentence from each of you. Should I point a volunteer? Okay, Jacek, thank you so much.
So I totally agree with Lucia that the revolution is just around the corner, and the CSR is becoming a trend. And this is visible even in the stock indices, because if you see some stock exchanges, there is the index for the customers responsible sustainable companies, which collects only the companies who do the business in such a way. And this is the signal from the business perspective, traditionally from the financial parameters, let's say, business orientation, that this is the way how we should do the business. This is first thing. And second sentence, if you give me a chance, is absolutely agree what our participants of this panel said about the culture. And I believe that this is only possible, that CSR is in the company and every colleague is doing appropriate actions if it's the part of the culture. But this is only possible if the culture is built on the trust and integrity, not only for the KPIs and for the PR actions or these kind of things. And trust and integrity is the foundation to do anything in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacek, for sharing this.
Okay, if I might say something, I would like to say to the authorities, please make more secure bike lines. It will be so nice to have more of them, really. It will be lovely if we could say Szczecin is a biking city. It will be awesome. Thank you.
True Dane spoke, right? Lucia, you were raising a hand.
Yes, as if I may have two comments. One, generally to sum up what I think and what we were discussing here, and a lot of wonderful words I heard, so it's where I totally align. And it's, I believe that, of course, in business life, we have to make compromises depending on what situation we are in. And sometimes we have to sacrifice sustainable goals to save financial profit. It happens, we have to do it. But take the long-term goal, because sustainability is about long-term vision. and CSR is about feeling responsible and understanding that your responsibility doesn't end on your threshold. I am happy having my business and living in Szczecin. This is my hometown. I think it is a wonderful town with slightly slower pace of life and located, fantastic, on the crossroads of international routes and close to Scandinavia and very green. And if I have a wish to the city council, I have plenty particular, fully support the biking path, but broader. I think the city can support our business best by making Szczecin a good, friendly place to live. It's not about big investments. It's not about something impressive. It's about making it a safe, more quiet, bikeable, clean town. It's about biking paths, cleaning the streets, making sure that regulations are kept because we need it, because the future of our businesses is people, skilled, passionate, committed people, and they want to live in the places where they feel they enjoy living. So keep building the city safe and enjoyable and beautiful.
Thank you, Lucia. Agata, Johan, would you like to final closure statements?
Absolutely, thank you. I will not so much summarize up what we spoke about, but I mean, I think it should be easy from an authority standpoint, and the things that authorities impact and influence. I think they have a responsibility to make life as easy as it can be for citizens and companies, and when it comes to regulations to follow. So it should be easy to do right. It's an essence in the company, but it's very much an essence in the regulations that you said. I also think when it comes to taxes and other things in which you control what people do, what you want people to do more of and companies to do more of, you should tax less. And what you want people to do less of, you should tax higher. So you can control behaviors to a large degree in how you tax and incentivize things. So from a government or a regulator standpoint, I would sort of seek to regulate things they make it easy to do things right, or to focus on the right things, and also incentivize behaviors by financial instruments.
Thank you, Johan, very much. That was really in a Scandinavian way, because we know that in Scandinavia, the tax regime is constructed exactly like that. So very good advice for the local authorities. Agata, the last.
Okay, so I think that I have a couple of points that will sum up what all colleagues said already. So I would say that first, do not build barriers for sustainable business and for sustainable communities, but live them. Do incentivize, and this is something that Johan said, do incentivize good business and local communities. Then create partnerships and join forces with sustainable business. Let's support each other. Because as we said previously during this panel, only through cooperation and partnership, we can really create sustainable society.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really, I'm always inspired, and today you gave me a lot of things to think about, and also I hope our audience was inspired, and we answered a bit a question why the Nordic countries and companies are leaders in the sustainability and CSR. So thank you so much to Lucia, Agata, Paweł, Johan, Jacek. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining SPCC during this panel. Thank you to our audience. Thank you to Agency for Szczecin Development, run by Marek Kubik, for supporting us with this panel. And a special big heart goes to Viola Buczek from Scandinavian House and Previous Arms. So thank you so much for all the efforts the team has done to make it happen. Thank you one more time, and we are looking forward to further discussions. We invite you to SPCC events. Shortly in June 9, we will be talking about green cities, so I hope you will join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon. My name is Angelika Muchowska, and I'm pleased to welcome you on today's webinar, which I will moderate. Our today's meeting is one of many activities carried out as a part of the Scandinavian Days that have become a permanent fixture in the Szczecin's event calendar. The Scandinavian Days is an annual event that successfully develops cooperation between Scandinavian countries and Poland. This year, we have the opportunity to organize the 7th edition of the Scandinavian Days. The subject of today's meeting will be designing an ecological urban space. In a moment, we will hear speeches and we will see the presentations of a very interesting guests that will present their project thanks to their broad experience in this area. My guests will be Josephine Wickholm and Paweł Jaworski. They both will introduce you with the directions of changes in the designing of ecological urban space on the example of the Scandinavian cities and as well in Szczecin. Before we begin, I would like to introduce our guests in a few words more, and I will start with Josephine Wickholm. She is a lead architect in Semren and Manson, located in Gothenburg in Sweden. Her main focus is residential architecture and urban design. Her approach is transdisciplinary to maneuver the sustainable agenda within the project. Josephine is educated at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm and Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. She has worked for the West 8 urban designers and landscape architects in Rotterdam, Wingards Architects and White Architects in Sweden, before finally she joined Semren and Manson in 2020. Is it right, Josephine, or you would like to add anything? In a few minutes, Josephine will expand the topic when sustainability is the goal in few examples from Sweden. And my second guest is Paweł Jaworski. He's an urban planner who develops his own method of experimental urban planning, combining research, design, and participation. In 2017, he prepared the first concept in Poland to transform downtown street by testing temporary solutions together with people who use the street in a daily basis. And we are talking about the example of Żywa ulica in Dąbrowa Górnicza. He worked in a very similar way in Warsaw, Kraków, and Gorzów Wielkopolski. Today, he deals with the mobility plan for the Metropolis GZM and transformation of public space in the center of Bytom and our beloved Szczecin. We are talking about the Old Town. And Paweł will deliver a mini speech and a presentation about exactly what changes will be in Szczecin Old Town. He will elaborate it more. The lecture will be focused on transport and mobility, construction and ecological designs, which he thinks that those issues are integrally related. Is it true, Paweł? Or would you like to add something?
Yeah, it's true. Hello, and I will talk about everything you said before.
So now is the time to give the voice to Josephine Wickholm, and she will start her topic and her presentation. And I will remind maybe the topic when sustainability is the goal on the examples from Sweden.
Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's really thrilling to be able to have some exchange across the Baltic Sea. It's not that often we do it. I've chosen I was asked to give some or talk about some trends in sustainability in Sweden. And I choose to transform that topic into when sustainability is the goal, and then some examples from Sweden. Sustainability is more and more on the agenda. I think Sweden is one country that has a close relationship to nature and to appreciating our Mother Earth. So for us, it's really in our genes. But still, the building industry has not always focused on this. So that's a change that is coming. Okay, let's see. Okay. So as I told you, I will talk about the change in Sweden, what is happening right now, what kind of new ideas are sort of circling, and then I will talk about two examples, quite, I would say, normal examples. I mean, it's not fancy city center examples, but it's really housing environments a little bit outside of the city center. One example I work with right now, and that's outside of Gothenburg, and the other one was a competition we did in Oslo. And then maybe we will have some time for conclusions after my presentation, or we take that into discussion after Paula's talk. Yes, so this is me as I was presented. And just a few words about the office I work for. We are Semren & Månsson Architects, and we're based here in Gothenburg, Göteborg. But we have offices also in your city, and that's why it's so nice to be invited, and in Stockholm, Malmö, St. Petersburg, and Moscow. So we're quite active across the Baltic Sea. And when we work in Sweden, it's a tendency of having like a lot of mid-sized projects. But when we work across the sea, what we see is that actually many of our projects are of a much larger and more urban character. One exciting building we're building right now here in Gothenburg is the highest building in Sweden, the tower that you can see to the right. Yes. So what change is happening in Sweden that will lead us towards sustainable solutions? As I was saying, we work in a quite conservative business, building and construction, where costs are usually on top of everyone's mind. But in Sweden, during the last years, we can see that the politicians have started to understand how they can implement Agenda 2030 and the 17 global goals of the United Nations. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with these goals, but they are goals that the United Nations put up so that we can reach equity, no poverty, zero hunger, and that all countries around the globe can find their ways to try to fight these challenges. And in Sweden, we have started to use them both on a governmental level and on a local level now. And that makes me very happy as an architect who's been focusing on sustainability, especially at the office I worked for before, White Architects, but also here now. We can see that the municipalities are making these agendas their local agenda, and that when they sell the land to the developers we're cooperating with, we can see that they now have a much broader focus, and that they select the goals that they think is at the level of a project or of how the municipalities like to work with city planning. Another thing that is transforming how we will build in Sweden is that we will have obligatory climate declarations from January next year. That means that we can no longer only focus on the energy of a building. We excuse me, we have to look at the lifespan of a building. I'm sorry, I forgot to bring some water into my room. I had to. Sorry.
We will have a little break in the presentation. Just as a reminder, now we see a presentation of Josephine Wickholm, who is an architect. And Josephine is explaining the topic when sustainability is the goal on some examples from Sweden. Maybe I will also remind a little bio of Josephine Wickholm. She is a lead architect at Semren and Manson, located in Gothenburg in Sweden. And her main focus is residential architecture and urban design. Her approach is transdisciplinary to maneuver the sustainable agenda within the project. Josephine is educated at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm and Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. And she is our guest on the 7th edition of the Scandinavian Days, which started yesterday and will be ongoing through next few days. Okay, we can come back. So, Josephine, are you ready to continue?
Yes. I'm so sorry. The goal with the climate declaration is to reduce the climate impact, and we will then start to look at the whole construction phase of each project. So it will be the production, the manufacturing of the material, the transportation to the construction site, and the energy that it takes to produce the project. And then the user phase, and later the end of life phase. So we actually get the whole life cycle of a building. And since each project will have this obligatory, when they apply for building permission, this brings in a whole other discussion into each project. And we will, pretty much like the car industry, be able to see our climate footprint. So that will change how we work. Another thing that is changing is that even though we are a country of wood and trees and have a long tradition of building small family houses in wood, we have not been doing that on a larger scale. And since we now see that our cities are becoming more and more dense, we have to develop our industrial wood system so that we can build on larger scale. And this is happening now, also because of the discussion of the climate impact of a project, to have renewable materials in our projects, which wood is, compared to concrete. So there are cities around Sweden who has a long tradition in manufacturing wood, and they are really putting this on their agenda and making themselves wood cities. And as we can see here in the images, there is a quite big culture house up in Skellefteå in northern Sweden that is being built entirely of wood, with a hybrid construction, I should say, with a little bit of concrete to stabilize the construction. And also we see more and more housing developers now daring to build entire buildings of wood, and also they in industrial wood systems. So that's a big change that we as architects see, and which will make it possible for us to make a much smaller ecological footprint. There is also a discussion of circular materials. I mean, before we have looked at our project as, you know, we build our projects and then they should last forever. And if they don't, and when they don't, we tear them down, and then we don't make this material circular. So there are tests in Sweden how we can make projects circular. And the example to the right is a Danish project, which you might have seen from Lendegren Group, where they made recycled the bricks that would make up the facade. And so they put them into new elements and made quite interesting brick facades. So we get other kinds of designs also when we use circular materials. But this also creates new business opportunities and networks. The office I worked for before, they made a whole interior of a culture house of reused and recycled materials. And it turned out that the biggest challenge was actually, of course, not to make the design itself, but to know what to put in, because there was a whole new chain of business that was needed to then find the pieces they needed. So there are, I would say that there are a lot of questions that are now sort of put up in the light that we have known of for years, but now the tests are being made. This is an office building that we see here from one of the bigger developers and also office owners, Vasakronan. And they bought the site, were planning to tear the entire block down, but realized if they make, if they look at sustainable issues as a part of their business, they realize that they can get other kind of answers. So here they looked at a climate calculation, what they would gain if they kept an old structure, which is actually the sort of the lower gray part here, and just put a new facade of it and change all the technical things. And make a smart new design, but just keep the concrete structure pretty much. And what they found out was that they would be able to move in all new tenants. I think it was 2 years before a new build projects, and they could save about half of the carbon dioxide budget and a third of the economical budget. So actually, by working with the reuse and rethinking this idea that we always build new can be a future trend. In Gothenburg, the city where I live, Göteborg in Swedish, the city is in charge of building new schools and new daycare centers and other kind of public facilities. And the city is exploring how they can become climate neutral by building examples. So this daycare, it's now being built, but this is just an early image. Here they tested climate neutrality and fossil-free buildings to see what challenges the city will meet. The climate impact was central, and as they were working with these questions, building it all in wood and finding all different kinds of places where they could reduce the climate impact, they found that 70% less climate impact would be possible. So that's amazing when you think of the challenges that we have now on this planet. But the social issue, social sustainable issue is also changing, and I think we have always thought we are good at social sustainability in Sweden, but it turns out that when you look a little bit deeper, we have a lot of vulnerable or hidden groups in society that we haven't seen, we haven't heard. And one such study is about places for girls. It turns out that teenage girls basically have nowhere to go. They don't fit in or go to the sport fields that the boys do. They might stay in the playgrounds of kids, but that research sort of opened up for a new discussion about all the hidden groups, who's not seen, who's not heard, and how can we make a more inclusive society. And I think I'm coming to maybe one of the last sort of trends, and we are looking in new ways on how we are bringing green into the cities, and also how the green, the nature that is surrounding our city is being used. Here is an example of how an inner city, new development can meet climate change and bigger stormwater or rainwater floods that will come. I mean, there's every 100 years or so, there are huge masses of rain, but also the coming, with climate change, we see that there will be more rain in Sweden. So we are building in structures to take care of that and making that a part of our urban green. Other ways to work with ecosystem services, or what nature can do, is of course to look for the habitats of animals, insects, bees, their spreading zones, and make sure that we have included these things when we plan the green of the city, not just to make it a beautiful city, but to think of how the sort of the natural character is enhanced when we plan. So they might seem very separate, but actually I think the agenda, when you talk about sustainability, is changing every half a year or so and improving. I will now show a land allocation competition in Sweden. When the municipalities sell their land, they sometimes run competitions for the developers and architects. So probably it could be the same in Poland, but I don't know. A lot of times it's about how much you actually pay for the land and that your project looks decent and so on. But recently we won a competition where the municipality put out the agenda very differently. So there is an area that is quite low dense outside of Gothenburg. It's the area here. I think you see my arrow. I mean, when the office I work for, Semren and Monson, we have been working with this area for quite some years to plan the whole structure of the city. But during that work, we didn't know that in the end, for the land allocation competition, the agenda would lift, rapidly. When we planned it, we were looking at shared space and let's see. This is the idea that we worked out. It's sort of urban blocks along a street with a lot of shared courtyards, and that's a way that we in Sweden work with social sustainability quite a lot, and making both public space and parks, but emphasizing the life around the courtyard and how people can meet and share their everyday in those courtyards. And the idea in this area was to really make people also not only sit there in the sun, but also somehow find ways to share their interest and grow together and maybe garden together and so on. But this is the general plan of the project, with some business opportunities down here. And the site that we were competing on was the first site. It's just these blocks down to the south of the site. When the city approached us, the surprise was that they came to us with challenges that they wanted us to answer. And it was obvious that it would hit also, I'm sorry if the global goals are in Swedish here, but they came to us with the global goals saying that this is how we, in this municipality, Mölndal, outside of Gothenburg, now want to obtain our goals in also in urban planning. And we ask you some questions and we want you to answer them. And we will give you points for how well you answer them. And the one that is willing to make the best proposal and the most points will win. And this has never happened before, that it's so open and also that it's so divided that you have to answer every question. So instead of number 2 here, design, which would be the sort of design and price would be what we would usually be judged on. They would judge us on outdoor environment and with 5 actually subtitles. Now I wrote down some of the most interesting: social inclusion, ecosystems, and stormwater, rainwater, stormwater. And then the design was more similar to what we usually have. It's the relationship to vision and plan. We have to produce architecture, but we also had to produce public art in this proposal. And then they were very strict about plans for energy consumption. So it had to be a solar panel system. Every tenant needs to measure their individual consumption of energy. And there were several more questions here that we had to take care of. They wanted us to reuse material and show how we do that, and produce ideas for quality of living. This is, as I said, it's a very normal area. It's like daily life. It's not, in the inner city. So it surprised us that here they would come with this agenda. And we decided to focus on a new urban green way of living together. It's quite relaxed, but it will have emphasis on shared space, and the future tenants, once they have signed up to rent an apartment here, they will be involved in a process to decide what will be in their collective spaces, and to design both them and the quarter together with the landscape architects. The wood structure was, of course, also important. So there is a plus energy house, which is quite complex, with storage in the ground, battery storage, nighttime to have the solar energy stored for the use that we need, but some might be passed on to other in the neighborhoods, and so that was quite complex. And what we obtained is a plus energy house. The wood structure we were judged on also, and that usually there is not so much interest in how we built our project, but since they wanted us to become climate neutral and also look into the life cycle of the building, these questions were important. So actually what happened is that the municipality cares about the details very deep in the project, and that they actually understand that all these questions needs to be brought onto the agenda with the developer and also followed up in the end. So that's really exciting for us. So it will be a livable, inclusive neighborhood with co-creation. It will be a plus energy house in wood with partly reused materials, and that's nothing we usually produce in this kind of, everyday neighborhoods. And I will make it very short because I think maybe I talked a little bit too long about the first project and the introduction. But we pre-qualified for a competition in Norway called Reinventing Cities, which is a global competition run in about 30 cities. This was about a year and a half ago. And where the goal is to produce examples for the world and also inspire the local communities to sort of step up and do more. And this is also a very sort of normal setting. It's a suburb, green garden city area outside of Oslo, where they needed to make a little bit more of a city center character. And we applied and said that we will try to produce an example with existing technology, but make it better. And reduce the climate impact as much as we can. So that would mean for us that if we make this example within 10 years, we can see many copies. Sort of that was the idea. The idea of the competition was to set examples that can serve as models for carbon neutral development, and to have innovative ideas for resilience and urban regeneration and environmental performance. So the goals were set quite high, and here we got 10 challenges to work on. And even though they were 10, we actually added one on top, a 0, because we thought they were missing healthy urban lifestyle. In this area, we could see that the health numbers of people living here were actually very low, and their life, the life, if you live here, it was likely that your life would be 10 years less than if you lived in another part of Oslo. So it was about energy production on site, sustainable materials management, low carbon mobility, resilience and adaptation, new green services on site, clean growth and smart cities, sustainable water management, biodiversity, and inclusive action and community benefits. So the big challenge for us, if you start such a project, you have to understand that you cannot work the same way as you usually do. The team will shift, who you include on the team. This is our team that we're presenting. It's a huge team. There are researchers on the team. There are smart city specialists. There are energy specialists with a very innovative heating system. There are organizations that work with like social housing, elderly functions, and so on. So the team was much broader, and we needed a clear model for us to develop the project, where we would go from understanding the core values on site, developing a vision, goals, bringing in the challenges again, and strategies, and focusing on the main goals: climate neutral project, participation, and health. So we set out for 3 goals: encourage a healthy lifestyle, empower people through increased participation, and create a physical, digital, and social structure that produce as little carbon dioxide as possible and have impact within the coming 10 years. And it's almost impossible to sort of summarize such a project, but the main, what I've learned the most is how different your process is. If you want to, maybe I need to go faster. When you go for these goals, you need to have other design strategies. So we would design the whole, the architecture volumes to open up for a nice microclimate, to adopt to best possible energy production, and a participation process that would bring in the local people and to give them as much power in the end as possible to run the sort of social platform and sustainable issues together. And what we found out was that we could produce more energy on site that we needed, but we couldn't produce enough heat. So we would have to sell heat and in the end become take as much as we gave. So in the end, it was we could produce everything we needed. And when we looked at how we worked with materials in the whole life cycle, we could compare it to a business as usual sort of level, and look at how the wood structure that we were using could be improved in different steps by taking out bad insulation, bringing in more wood insulation, reuse some parts of the concrete and so on. And in the end, we found out that we could lower the carbon in materials by about 59%. And that was still just using an industrial wood system, a Swedish system that is on the market, but just to sort of screw on every little detail and think smart in every step. So I would say that if the industry would take upon the challenge, there is a lot we can do during the coming 10 years. And that's what I wanted to tell you, actually. I hope it gave you a little bit a picture of what happens when you bring in many challenges. That's very short, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. This was Josephine Wickholm, an architect a lead architect from Semren and Manson. And I have one, maybe not short, but one question. I was wondering, in your opinion, are those ecological solutions ready to implement all over the world? Is it possible?
Yes. I think there are local answers to everything. And we are working with the materials, wood, for example, that we have a lot of and a lot of knowledge of. But bringing up the challenges that you have and including them in a project, in all the projects, and bringing in the Agenda 2030, I think that's that could be done everywhere. Especially if the municipality, I don't know, maybe takes a democratic political situation, I don't know.
Okay, and one more. Considering your broad experience so far, which of your projects was the biggest challenge for you and why?
It was actually the second project, Reinventing the Cities. Then I was working for white architects, which are focusing on sustainable issues, but actually we had never fulfilled all the 10 challenges in one project before, in one competition. So when you are in a creative phase together, I mean, you have to be creative and you have to understand what knowledge you have, but you also have to be willing to develop that together with all the other 10 challenges and knowledge here. And that was very challenging. When I did the first project I showed you, I had already the other one sort of with me. And it was easier for me as a team leader to describe and bring in the right competence at the right time. So it was easier to solve the task then.
Thank you so much. So now you can rest a little bit because we will allow Paweł to do his presentation. So Paweł will deliver a mini speech and a presentation about changes in Old Town in our beloved Szczecin. Paweł, are you ready?
Yes. Just give me 1 second. I will share my screen. I think it works right now. Yeah. Is it visible? Can you see my presentation? Yeah. You are giving me a sign. Yeah, so once more hello. And yeah, I will talk about sustainability, about the process of implementing sustainable solutions in the city, but I will focus on urban planning, urban policy, and on sustainable transportation, sustainable mobility, because it's my field of work. Yeah, my background is in philosophy and architecture, but I'm cooperating with municipalities and helping them to implement sustainable solutions in the field of transport, as I said before. So that's why the title of my speech is How to Make Cities Sustainable and Streets Livable, but I think the subtitle is more important, and live long and happily even after the resulting conflicts. Because the crucial point of my presentation is some story about dealing with conflicts, dealing with demands, with needs, with mess of demands and needs in public space, and so it's also a speech about the process of imposing order in this mess, looking on your sustainable goal. Yeah, so let's start. And at the beginning, everyone who's working in the field of urban planning or urban design and urban policy has some strategic framework. Yeah, for us right now is a new framework of European Green Deal in the field of mobility, of sustainable building architecture, energy solutions, and so on. But when we are looking on our practice and when we are going into details how it really works, we can see that when you are trying to implement these changes, you are facing huge opposition. Yes, and everyone who lives in Szczecin heard about protests against changes in the old town, but it works the same in other cities. So when I'm dealing with urban issues in big cities in Poland, each time I'm facing the problem of protesting, with the problem of discussing about how to transform public space, what's the most important, and at the end, the most important is private car and parking lot. So yeah, but the background of my work and the background of urban solutions I will talk about has its own history. I mean, history talking in a street way. I mean, the history of transportation is a background of this lecture, and also some urban theory. So two very important contexts, very important for me, and I think very important for analyzing the problem of sustainable mobility. The story of making streets livable started by Donald Appleyard and nearly half of the century ago, and analysis of developing the automotive city. Yeah, some kind of research very popular in USA and also right now in Europe, some analysis that shows connections between transportation, transport needs, and urban planning and design. And at the beginning, some thought of Peter Norton, historian from USA, some American historian, who is analyzing the problem of development of car traffic in cities and transformation of cities that is connected with this car traffic development. And he shows that when we are analyzing what's happening with our cities and we are focusing on transport, we should not only talk about cars, about trams, about other modes of transportation, but about culture, about urban design, about revitalization, about urban policy, because development of car traffic was connected with all layers of urban planning. So that's why it's really hard to discuss about sustainable mobility without without dealing with all of this context. And the second guy, Donald Appleyard, as I said before, very important urban designer, urban planner, and researcher, who shows that transportation, traffic, and mobility is some kind of a weak problem. I mean that it's really hard to solve this problem because each solution is also a part of next problem. Yeah, when you are closing streets in your city, or you are reducing parking lots area, you are facing the problem with, as I said at the beginning, you are facing the problem of protests. You are taking part in several meetings, and everyone is shouting and fighting for their own interests and needs. So he shows that implementing changes is not so obvious. It's cheap when we are dealing with the problem of mobility. You don't need much money, and you can control traffic easily. But at the end, you are part of this huge mess of urban issues. So, how to deal with those conflicts? We can do it in several ways. First solution, first layer is strategy or some strategical framework of urban design. You can transform transportation systems and implement sustainable solutions in transportation systems, because there are a lot of them. You can transform, rebuild public space, or you can use temporary solutions, temporary use of public space to improve in a short term public space of your city and develop some bigger transformation. And the idea of temporary use, the idea of urban experiments was born several years ago. At the beginning in United States, there were some experiments in main streets, and also on the right photo you can see the first event with parking lots. The first parking lot in the world was transformed into kind of a maybe livable place, a green place for everyone. And it was the beginning of a huge movement, global movement, and you can enjoy this type of event each year in nearly all countries around the world. And the experiments are also right now part of bigger policy ideas, as in New York City. Experimental transformation of public space is a basic idea of transport policy in the city, and experiments are used to develop new ideas for public areas, for public places, spots in several districts. And right now in COVID-19 era, experiments are really popular. Everyone is discussing how to implement some temporary solutions in the city centers, like in Berlin on Friedrichstraße, or in American cities, because we are now wondering how to improve our cities, but very fast. Not because we are wondering how to improve the space without bigger process. Bigger process is really important, and we should think in a strategic perspective, but we should also develop some ideas for that can be implemented using a smaller amount of money and very fast. And that's why I'm developing my own project called Livable Street, and it was inspired by Donald Appleyard and his research. And I'm trying to transform streets or roads. Ordinary street is a road, yeah, to livable streets, and I'm focused on their social value, economical value, and on needs of all users of this space and areas. And I worked in several in several cities in Poland, but I will focus on Szczecin because right now it's the most important city for our meeting. Livable Streets is sometimes an event, one day event or 1 week event connected with some kind of EU fest called Sustainable Mobility Week, or a bigger process that starts with temporary use and expands to the bigger project, bigger idea of transformation, of, for example, of the main street or net of main streets in the city or the whole district, like in Szczecin. So, just to give you some photos that you can imagine how it works. It's really simple at the beginning. So when you're when you're a user of a public space, you can see a place that was transformed. For example, one of main streets in Warsaw that was closed for car traffic, and it was some kind of how to call it, maybe some public space for rest, for fun, for local merchants, for greenery. The same idea from Dąbrowa Górnicza, smaller town in southern Poland, and project in Kraków, Plac Nowy, New Square, heart of former Jewish district, and right now some kind of a touristic center of Krakow, closed for car traffic for summer period. And and the idea, the logic of transformation in Szczecin was not the same, but inspired by this idea. We dreamed about main square. We dreamed about livable place, livable spot as heart of the old town and heart of the whole Szczecin. But the beginning was very very complicated. I mean, that's Plac Orła Białego, square of White Eagle, the heart of the old town, at the beginning of transformation. So that's the point where we started our work. This square was divided between it was the main square, and it's right now the main square of the city. It was divided between cars and everything else. Half of the square was carriageways, car parking lots. So this square was dominated by car traffic, and other type of uses was footways and greenery. So when we are discussing about sustainability in public space, we should keep in our mind that at the beginning we have something like this space dominated by cars. So when we are trying to develop some sustainable solutions, we should take into account this existing situation. So this project was called New Life of the Square of White Eagle, and the documentation of the whole process, only in Polish, is on the website of this project. The beginning point was not a square, but a parking lot of White Eagle. Some inhabitants was laughing that we are not dealing with the problem of square, but the problem of parking lot. So it's they they were laughing that it's not a square, it's not a public space. It's only a parking lot for visitors of the old town. It was temporarily transformed in the same year, and last year we carried out some interim solutions, and right now we are working with the with documentation with the project for target transformation. So in several steps, what has happened? Formal condition, the analysis of formal conditions at the beginning. So this image is really important and historical because it was one of the first meetings with deputy mayor and other officials from Szczecin. We were discussing how to transform this place, which changes are the best one, how to make some good research to improve our ideas and our designs. Later, we have visited inhabitants of the old town, merchants in their places, and people who only visit this place from time to time. So we were standing on the square, and yeah, I'm on this photo, so you can see that it's true. That's not a pure speech. It's yeah, we were standing in the public space and interviewing people, discussing what's wrong with this place, what's the biggest value of this area, and so on and so on. After all, we prepared some research and we carried out some research. We made observations of this area. The most of them was focused on traffic, yeah, on mobility, because it was the biggest issue of this place. As you have seen on the first photo in this part of presentation, the beginning was parking lot, so that's why we were wondering who is parking there and who is the owner who are the owners of cars in this area. Later, we prepared some designs, and we discussed our ideas with several groups of users of this place. With young people, with youngsters that are learning, who are learning in local secondary school, with merchants and with inhabitants, and also with local politics. We prepared the whole documentation of the prototyping project, and it was the stage that we decided that we can't focus only on the square, but we should transform the whole district, the whole area. It was a part of district, but a bigger part. I mean, not only the square of White Eagle, but also some streets that are connected with this point in the city. We informed everyone that what we are planning to do, that this prototyping process is will take place. It's not only a discussion, but it's a real transformation. And we implemented this project, this design. It was implemented in a participatory way with the dwellers. So they were engaged not only into the discussion how to improve this space, but they also helped us to make it better. Better in my way, yeah, because you can think in a different way and make your own evaluation. And the implementation process, the prototyping, the testing was divided into 3 options, and it lasted 3 months in total. Each month was another design, another option of transformation. Yeah, and here you can see some photos that shows the emotion of this process, the emotional part that we were really working with dwellers. They were helping us to improve this place, and they were engaged in each part of improving the prototype, the prototype of implementing the prototype and transforming this design, of this temporary design. And after all, we checked how this place worked during testing period. And we did it in the same way that we were doing before prototyping. We checked car traffic flows, how parking lots work, and we also discussed with dwellers, with users, what they think about this place, what was good, what was bad with this transformation, and how we can improve our design to make it permanent without failures. At the end, yeah, we prepared target solutions for this area, for square and neighborhood. And at the end, yeah, we discussed it with users. It was a huge meeting in a local primary school, and it lasted 4 hours. I remember, yeah, it was really exhausting, but really, really interesting, and as I can imagine, very important for people who work and live there. Because we, during this meeting, we told them that, yeah, we are preparing a bigger transformation. So this prototyping process is only a beginning. It's not the end. I mean, transforming of the square is not the end, but it's only a beginning of a bigger urban project, urban process. And 1 year later, we started the implementation implementation phase. We demolished the former parking lot and make it a green area. And it's only an interim use. I mean that we will develop a bigger transformation, and we will implement better green solutions in this area. But we wanted to show that this transformation started, yes, that it's a visible sign that and some kind of a urban monument of this process. So we are preparing to a bigger transformation and showing that, you know, it's important for us. And this transformation starts right now here in this square, but it will expand till the borders of the old town or of the whole district. And yeah, why this way? Because it's not a typical way of working with urban issues, even in Poland, but it's a popular urban tool, I mean, prototyping in South America, in USA, even in Germany. We are all the time looking at Berlin, and yeah, and Berlin is using, was using and is using till now prototyping as a very important tool of urban policy. The first point, I mean, the most important for me, that this process is based on everyday experience. So when you are discussing about urban transformation all the time, you are facing some abstract ideas, abstract connections, abstract scams. And the deliberation, the participatory process, when you are trying to discuss with users what you are planning to do, has a very high access threshold. So I mean that it's really hard to be a part of a complicated urban transformation. So that's why when you are discussing the sustainability, you should focus on, as Josephine said, on social sustainability. Yeah? Social sustainability is a very important part of discussing sustainable architecture and urban design. So preparing an open process of urban transformation is not an easy task to do, but you can do it using prototyping, and that's why I'm working in this way. The second point, also very important, that you can, during implementation of urban design, you can follow consequences. I mean, you are discussing not about user needs, what is really abstract, and you need to be good prepared to discuss this issue, this problem. You can see consequences and analyze them and discuss what has happened, not will happen when the bigger transformation will take place, but what has happened in this area, what was good and what was bad. Reducing escalation of fictive problems and fears is also very important, because when you are trying to design some participatory process, you are facing the problem of fears. Everyone is discussing not what he or she wants, but what he or she is afraid of. This type of work, this tool helps us to go further, to discuss real problems, not fictive ones. Exploring unknown unknowns. Yeah, it's also really important that using temporary solutions, you can find something that you can't find in another way. In this project, very important was an issue of rainwater management. During this prototyping, it was really visible that we have a problem with using rainwater, managing rainwater in this district, and there are only small green areas that can be used for retention. Empowering dwellers, it's also a very important aspect of this type of work. When you are engaging people in the process of transformation, they are feeling that this transformation is part of their life, yes, and it's part of their daily life. So they can give their ideas, and they can be some kind of your project friends, yeah, can help you to prepare a better project and enables you to work in a better way. Experiment when you are making it in a good way is a part of bigger transformation. And what's important is this transformation is based on real engagement, not on your top-down vision, but also on bottom-up ideas, bottom-up needs. And that's how it works in Szczecin. As I said before, this transformation was only a beginning of the transformation of the whole district of the old town. And yeah, using prototyping tools, you can involve people at the planning stage. You can discuss with them what you will do and what you should do, which problem should be solved at the beginning, which one should be solved later, which one is the most important for users, not for you as an urban designer, but for users who live there and work there. In some projects, the implementation and participation in implementation phase is also important. This photo is from Warsaw, but where I worked in really derelict area, the derelict district, and this process of temporary transformation is also was a really important part of some kind of a social process. Yeah, so I think that it was really a revitalization one. And at the end, prototyping helps you to create some safe space for I call them silent users, using this IT term, silent users of public space. When you are preparing some designs or urban designs, you are all the time discussing with adult person, with adult dwellers, and they are discussing adult stuff. And a very important group of users are children, and On this photo from Dąbrowa Górnicza in southern Poland, you can see two guys. I was discussing with them for nearly 2 hours, and they were explaining me how the greenery in the street works, what works well, how it's managed, what are the problems with cutting, planting, watering, and so on. And they were really experts. So it's really important to engage such people into your work and to get information from them, because sometimes they are much more interesting than some kind of so-called adult stuff. Yeah, and so that's all. And as I said before, you can find information about this work on the website, letsorla.szczecin.eu. There are some photos and articles about each step of this project, and on my website you can also find information about my other projects. I described them during this presentation shortly because it was focused on Szczecin. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. It was Paweł Jaworski in the mini speech and presentation about changes in Szczecin's Old Town. And I have a question. You describe in your presentation a process of implementing a livable street. And I'm wondering, which step do you find the most difficult, demanding from the whole process? Which step?
All of them, but you know, the hardest one is the middle of testing. I mean, at the beginning, everyone thinks that it's a joke, that we are joking, that we'll transform the city, and users of public space are laughing that, you know, it's like always in Poland, we are talking a lot, but we are doing nothing. And when the transformation starts, the emotional aspect of this process, the emotional layer is changing, and it's some kind of pivot transformation. I mean, when people are seeing that this transformation is a real one, and we will change their place, and we'll change the mode they are using the public space. They are starting arguing with us, and it's the hardest part of this process, because it takes a lot of energy, a lot of time. You need thousands of meetings to discover what's the real problem, what is hidden under this hard emotion, and to discover some kind of a design information. Because in each conflict there is some kind of a core, and this core, this core is should be a part of project. And this process of discovering and expanding this core is it's the most complicated and the hardest for me as a urban designer who is responsible for carrying out this process, or developing this process.
Okay, and which of your project was the most satisfying for you?
Szczecin, of course.
That you will respond like this.
Yeah, Szczecin is the most interesting because it's the biggest one. I mean, sustainable mobility is in Poland okay when we are discussing it in an abstract way, but when we are trying to implement sustainable mobility ideas in reality, it's the beginning of conflict in each city. So you can use financial support to develop electrical buses, electrical public transport, and it's okay. But when we are discussing about mobility in the context of urban design, and we are telling that there's something wrong with division of a public space, and we can't use public space in this way longer, it's really hard, and sometimes this discussion is the end of prototyping. I mean that city officials are cutting the process because it's too hard for them. And what's interesting in Szczecin, and it was my first experience working with officials, with communes, with cities. It was the first city where I had the possibility to develop the process, to develop the project. I mean, the testing phase was not the last one, but it was the beginning of preparation of bigger urban idea, of bigger urban project. And we are now preparing the transformation of the whole district. So it's the first time in Poland that we are doing it in a bigger scale, not only in the scale of square, not only in scale of the main street, but we are trying to reconstruct, transform the whole central area of big city in Poland.
Thank you very much for the for your answer. Thank you to both my guests today, to Josephine Wickholm, architect, and to Paweł Jaworski, an urban planner. Thank you as well to, I would like to thank you also for the attention and participation in the 7th edition of the Scandinavian Days. We talked about designing an ecological urban space, but over 2 past days, we have had many interesting discussions, not only about planning an ecological urban space, but also concrete and modern solutions in the field of circular economy and corporate social responsibility. All the topics that we have raised were related not only to Poland, but also to our Nordic partners' realities. And we think that our Nordic partners very often are leaders in the way that that the things are implemented in with the innovative ecological solutions and sustainable development. With any doubt, the very important point of those Scandinavian Days is opening of the Scandinavian House, which we are currently present. It is a new city space dedicated for the inhabitants, which is a catalyst for international cooperation and a place of discussion and exchanging the idea and the topics related to improving the quality of our lives. Thank you very much for the activity, for being a part of this activity, and I would like to remind yourself and welcome you in other events. You can find a full and very rich calendar on the website dedicated to the Scandinavian Days. Thank you all for participation.